Good evening, Niner faithful. Welcome to another episode of the Genuine Schuh. That's a working title that we've got going on here. We're still throwing things out there. We want some play on words with the beards and, two beard minimum. We've got a couple of things out there, working titles. But feel free to throw your suggestions in the comments of the video, in the chat. We are open to suggestion. As always for this show, I am joined by Randon McMahon of the Genuine Draft Podcast. Randon, welcome back to another episode.
Hey, this is the inaugural, right? I mean, we had some tester episodes, but this is the launch of the continuous stuff going on right now.
This is the kickoff. This is it. This is the big money show.
Well, cheers to that, my friend. I know you have your coffee mug around somewhere, right? I mean,
you know that I do.
Liquor in there, but cheers, my man.
Cheers to you. Yes, mine contains H2O. It's a very fine liqueur. Hits you just right. It's quite nice. Keeps you refreshed.
I already like that Ellis is in the chat, and his and we've had a couple beard me or between two beards.
Ooh, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Between two beards. I really like that one.
Yeah. So we got a couple good ones. So like between two ferns with Zach Galifianakis? Yeah.
Yes. Anything with Zach Galifianakis, I'm in.
So I mean, we have a lot going on here with this episode, but let's keep it light a little bit. We got Marvel coming up with a huge release with Spider-Man No Way Home.
Big time. George Kittle's plugging it. It's big.
Yeah, he's super plugging it. I mean, you got to think that he's down for cosplay with that Halo outfit that he did for Halloween. So we know he's into it.
Yeah, and Claire Kittle gets dressed up like nobody's business. I mean, if you follow her Instagram, she is a fashionista.
They seem like they work well together.
I think so.
Does Marvel work well together with you? Like, are you a Marvel fan?
You asked me this, and I'm old school, so I had to break out for the people how old school I am, that I have a little Spider-Man Marvel comic book collection here. These are just the top few that I grabbed off of the pile. So yeah, I'm into it. I may not be caught up on it, but I'm definitely into it.
You're like a savant busting out vinyl with those old school comics there. I like it, my man.
Yes, I'm a Renaissance man, Randon. I'm a Renaissance man.
So good alcohol and tight tights. I like it. So so for you, I mean, you said you're not super caught up in depth with the modern universe, but let me get you caught up. There's rumors that all the previous Spider-Mans are coming in. There's video of all the villains that are already in the movie, and Tom Holland, the actor for the Spider-Man in the Marvel Universe, is going to be doing battle with all those. Are you excited to have all those universes collide? Is that something that's cinematic that might pique your interest or make you go from 6 to midnight, if you will?
It is because I am a fan of Tom Holland as the best of the Spider-Man re-releases. That Tobey Maguire, lukewarm on that. It was cool because it was the first one out, and then the next gentleman, I don't even know his name, but it didn't seem like a great fit. He fit the Peter Parker role, but Tom Holland does seem to be a quality casting for the Spider-Man role. So yeah, I'm into it.
Yeah, I'm into it. It's supposed to be an Avengers level movie where there's a lot of characters coming in. Everybody's scheming, rumored. We know Doctor Strange is going to be in there, and that's going to go to Multiverse of Madness, or Multiverse of Madness coming up next season. And so, man, it's supposed to be a killer movie, and my brothers and I are trying to get our tickets for this weekend, so I'm excited.
Nice. I will probably be streaming it. I'm a homebody. I love my surround sound system. Even though I like action movies in the theater, I'm just not great with all the, COVID restrictions out there and all of that. I would rather just watch at home. That's for sure.
Well, yeah, you're in Portland. I'm in Texas. I mean, I could put a nuclear waste barrel in the movie theater and people would be okay with it. So
a little bit different there. That's for sure. A little bit different.
Yeah. But let's get going on the Niners, man. I mean, we've been the Avengers this last game with coming back in the overtime period. So kick it off, my friend.
It has been spectacular. I take a quick pause here for a quick programming note. Busy streaming day tomorrow, Randon. I know you're not involved, so this may bore you, but 11 a.m., I've got a half-hour show with Aaron Freeman of the Locked On Falcons podcast. I am super excited to bring Aaron Freeman in. The guy is fantastic. He's going to get us all the Falcons info we need. Then I got a 1:30 show with Brad of the SF Niners podcast YouTube channel. I know Niners fans are absolutely familiar with Brad and his work. And then 4 p.m. is a video call-in show with the Sneakerhead community, all those folks that are members of the channel. Back into our programming here, Randon. We're looking
sorry. Yeah, I'm back. Sorry.
Pay attention. Pay attention, Randon. This is important stuff. Bengals versus 49ers overall impressions. Randon, what were a couple of your high-level observations about the game and how it played out after watching the 49ers squeak out a close overtime victory over the Cincinnati Bengals?
Well, if any of you are in your car with your kids right now, picking them up from school, do a little 5-second earplugs, because George motherfucking Kittle was my outlook on the whole game. The beast did not hibernate after the last week. He came back with monster weeks. This wasn't Yogi Bear in the cave. He went full on Grizzly. And he just dominated, right? You're looking at, he could have got over 200 yards if that DB didn't hold his left arm, because Jimmy threw a beautiful pass right in his chest downfield. And, he was one-handed there, 13 catches on 15 targets with 151 in a tug. I mean, you can't really beat that right there. And then, as much as the team stalled out, the special teams had 2 turnovers, and Jimmy and the Niners went 6 for 6 in the overtime period with a beautiful tiptoe catch from Ayuk. It was just, it was très magnifique, so to speak.
It really was. I mean, it had everything you want in a good game, but I got to say that it does have me concerned. I know that we will hit on this in just a minute with our upcoming topic here, but it does worry me now that we're seeing the 49ers offense sort of drop off of a cliff at halftime the last couple of weeks. I was impressed, and what I choose to focus on coming out of that game is being impressed with the 49ers' ability to respond after what felt like a permanent momentum shift firmly into the corner of the Bengals, headed toward what felt like a victory for Cincinnati. That overtime defensive stop, the following offensive drive, really impressed me greatly, really showed me that the 49ers have what it takes to respond in a game after they get punched in the mouth.
Yeah, I mean, you have multiple games where it's been high and it's been low, and you got to like the fact that, I've always thought this about Jimmy. He's had a short-term memory, whether it be turnovers or bad plays or 3 and outs or whatever, but it seems sometimes when it really counts in the end of the game, he just completely resets his computer. You hold down the power button and fully reboot, and he comes back and he had 2 good drives. You could say players made good catches, but he had to put the ball there. He did a good job. The whole team did a good job. And when it really counted, obviously Gold missed the field goal, but in the overtime, 6 for 6, like I said, and we put that game away.
It really is something. I read an article by Jack Hammer, who I had on the program on Monday, that was talking about Jimmy Garoppolo having the memory of a goldfish, right? A little bit of a Ted Lasso reference there for you. The ability to forget the bad plays, the ability to move on, the ability to then turn it on when he needs to come out and play clutch. And certainly it felt like he was able to do that at the end of the fourth quarter and into overtime. I know people are quick to point out the interception that could have been at the end of the fourth quarter that probably would have sealed the victory for Cincinnati, and yet it didn't happen. So we can't really count those things that didn't occur. We don't want to rewrite history. I'm just impressed with their ability to respond, and I think that shows a team with heart. You're looking at, they were on the road in Cincinnati, hostile environment, high-powered offense, very depleted cornerback room. It's set up for the 49ers to drop the game. It's set up for disappointment. And be honest, if you were all over 49ers Twitter at that time, it got dark. Fans were bailing left and right. Fans were convinced that a loss was on the horizon. And yet, according to Brandon Ayuk, the offense was not. The offense was confident. Jimmy was confident, and he instilled that confidence in the offense as they went out and won that football game.
Yeah, I mean, I thought so too. I mean, I'm sitting there at the bar because I'm in Texas. I can't watch it in my home TV. So a few libations after a half, and you're just like, what WTF and all this kind of other stuff, and all the what ifs. I mean, if you want to go for a season long stat, I think we're one of the top in fumbles created, but bottom in fumbles recovered. I think we've only recovered 25% of the fumbles we've created. So fumble luck there. I mean, yeah, this pass, Jimmy, was a horrible pass. It was a great read, hit him square in the chest. That should have been a pick six. But since he should have won the game, but the Niners did win the game, right? So
exactly,
it's about what is. And that we should have won the game last week, but Russell Wilson had a good drive in the third, and he took that up. So, my overall impressions is a W's a W. We beat a big team, a team that everybody thought we'd win. Or a lot of people thought we'd lose against too, and we held up against their barrage, right? Almost 350 yards passing total for the Bengals. They took advantage of our young DBs, and Higgins had over 100 something yards off an injury. You had Chase with multiple touchdowns, should have had 3 touchdowns. So you're looking at a team that shoulda, coulda, woulda. I mean, if Chase brings that ball in, or there wasn't a lot of hand jostling, that could have been a touchdown catch, a lot of stuff, but a W's a W in my point. And we can critique because that's what our job is, but Jimmy in the offense was clutch. We had 2 turnovers from special teams, which we've been harping on over the last couple of weeks that they've been garbage, and we put a W in the win column. So I'm a happy fan at this point.
As you should be, and you said it. We could critique and perhaps we should a little bit, because the 49ers certainly did stall in the second half again.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is back-to-back weeks with them stalling in the second half. So, we were up by a little bit against Seattle. We came back after all that drama in the first quarter, but we were up in the second half and then stalled. And this, we were up big and then stalled. So if you're looking at it, Niners are 24th in the league on third down conversion rate. So 37.25%. Bottom of the league there. They averaged 4.14 plays on all their drives with punts. So we barely were over a 3-and-out during the game against the Bengals, which is not what you want. So it was completely stark contrast, right? Either we were doing 10-play drives, or we were taking advantage of the special team fumbles, those types of things, or we were going pretty much 3-and-out. And it doesn't bode a recipe for success. And let me break this down for you here, because Tampa is second in the league with 48% conversion rate. Arizona is 6th with 44. Rams are 10th with 41. And Dallas is 15th with 40th. All these teams are the potential games in the playoffs that we're fighting against, and they're taking advantage of multiple drives. Whether those drives are ending in points or not, they're taking advantage of every single drive by converting more third downs than we are. So what does this say to me? It says that Niners are not a team with explosion plays, and they need a score after all the turnovers that we have, or have over 10-play plus drives. So it's like it needs to be the perfect storm in order for us to create points. What do you think?
I think that you're right. And that presents as an issue as you start to play against more talented teams. I mean, you could argue that Cincinnati is on the cusp of being a relevant playoff team, of being able to make some noise in the playoffs. But I think you have to point out that they're very inconsistent, much like the 49ers. They were unable to capitalize on mistakes that the 49ers made that could have swayed the game in their favor. And the teams we're going to come up against when we reach the playoffs in the NFC, I think will be tougher than that. So when I look at Seattle and Cincinnati, it seems to me that they were both able to make enough halftime adjustments to really stymie the 49ers offense in the second half. And I do find that to be worrisome, because Kyle Shanahan has a history of being unable to close out games. It certainly has followed him around, the two most notable ones being obviously Atlanta against New England in the Super Bowl, and then the 49ers against the Chiefs. Sorry to bring up a painful memory for 49ers fans.
How dare you?
So there's this mental hurdle that has to be cleared, but I don't know that that's playing into me. It's clear to me that the lack of a solid run game against Cincinnati really caused us to stall. Seattle, that one feels like almost the mental hurdle of the big brother, little brother syndrome, where things started to go in Seattle's favor and then it just unwound for the 49ers. I feel like the 49ers need to stick with the run game to play a full 60 minutes of football. And if they don't have both Elijah Mitchell and Deebo Samuel healthy and playing considerable snaps, I'm just not entirely convinced that the offense can continue to click for 4 full quarters.
Well, I think you should put up a Ellis 10's comment why I go into my spiel here. I think you're right about that a little bit in the rushing game. But if you look at the rushing game, Wilson got 13 carries, 4.3 yards average, and Samuel got 8 carries. I mean, coming off a groin injury, he still got 8 carries. The most notable one was the 27-yarder. So he had 1 carry for 27 yards, and then he had 7 carries for 10 yards. And so I think that teams are starting to bring it with when Deebo is in the backfield. Like, they're starting to learn. Defensive coordinators are not stupid. They have jobs for a reason. And so I think that's something to come through. And then Ellis makes a good point here. Jimmy does come in the clutch. You look at in 2019, everybody was like, and me included, the only reason the team is successful is because of good run game and good defense. But what a lot of people don't realize is he was leaguing in fourth quarter comebacks. He had 4 fourth quarter comebacks. So he does come through in the clutch. And every team, when they're up in the fourth, plays softer coverage unless it's a 1-score game. And so what does that do for Jimmy? He's able to throw in the middle of the field. He's able to throw those quick slants. He's able to use his quick release. And every receiver on our team is good at yak. I mean,
yes,
they're known as the yak bros, right? So it does help us. If we're down in the game and Jimmy's able to throw the football, a lot of short stuff, and get the yak yards, it does bode well for us. Where I think it's a little bit different is that Jimmy's not counted on all game long for his arm, only when he has to be. And that's what separates him from a mediocre quarterback to the elites that we know and love.
Yeah, I think that if you have both Elijah Mitchell and Deebo Samuel healthy, then you are able to control the clock in most contests through 60 minutes with a dominating run performance. I thought that the 49ers got away from the run in the second half against Cincinnati, even though it was functioning, to your point, that Jeff Wilson Jr. seems to be rounding back into some sort of form. There doesn't seem to be the level of trust from Coach Shanahan that he'll be able to execute all of the run plays that he wants to hit. And I do think that even though Deebo got his 8 carries, that was limited because he was coming back from that groin injury. As he rounds back into form, as they have greater trust that he's not going to re-injure that groin, I suspect that the 49ers will be able to maintain the run game. If they are not, I agree with AJB here calling out, we need that 2017 5-0 Jimmy. In the playoffs, if any team is able to successfully take away the 49ers run game, and that'll be tough to do if it is both Elijah Mitchell and Deebo Samuel. But if a team is able to do that, we will need, as Steve Young quoted it, Pro Bowl level Jimmy. And I think that's possible. I know he's got it in him. I just don't know that it's plausible. I don't know if that's what I expect. What I'd love to see in the remainder of this season is developing greater offensive balance amongst the receiving core so that we're not just dependent upon Deebo one game, George Kittle another. I want to see that 3-headed monster stat line that you see for other teams with high-powered offenses that the 49ers just don't put up on a regular basis. If we can flash that against one of these inferior defenses coming up on the schedule, whether it's Atlanta this week or Houston 2 weeks after that, that'll give me a little more confidence.
Yeah, I mean, AGB's right. I mean, 2 of his top 5 QBR games came in 2017. And is this something to be said? I mean, we can debate this all night long. They've already said in 2017 that they used a lot of the New England schemes and made it simpler and he was just able to throw. So right. Is this there's always this debate between Jimmy Stans or Jimmy sexuals, as people call it, and people that don't like him. Is it Jimmy in his ability, or is it the way Shanahan believes his ability is? Is he calling plays that aren't allowing him to unleash his full ability, or is it just Jimmy's ability in himself? And so, that debate go back and forth. But as AGB said in 2017, two of his top 5 QBR games were in 2017, and he went 5-0. Like, he was lights out. And so it's just something to think about. Is that ability still there? Were the injuries something to go about, or can he harness that? Like we talked about a couple of times ago, all it takes is 4 games. We got hot 4 games this year already.
Absolutely.
All it takes is 4 games for us to make noise in the playoffs. And so, it's something to think about.
It really is. I do think that Jimmy is capable of stringing together that type of a run. And if he gets hot at that point, the 49ers stay healthy. Watch out, 49er faithful. Well, speaking of a more balanced attack as far as getting the ball to other receivers, I just got to call out what I saw on Sunday, and that is Juwan Jennings, or JJ, as Jimmy affectionately called him in reference to one of the questions in the presser. I believe that was today. Yes, JJ is a grown-ass man. He is making grown-ass man catches. He is blocking people like a grown-ass man, and it is that tenacious style of play that he brings to the field as the third wide receiver that makes him so valuable in my book. Randon, what type of value add do you believe Juwan Jennings can have for this offense going forward?
Well, he's that big body. I mean, right? Like you had multiple players drafted for that big body, and now he's actually contributing, right? So
yes, he is.
If you go in that realm, I mean, he's slowly becoming that big, that Shanahan's been wanting around the offense, whether it be blocking wise, that tenaciousness, or making those catches. I mean, you saw in the previous game, I think it was Seattle, or the game before, he had a nice catch over the middle where he was bodied by multiple defenders. In overtime, he had that back shoulder throw where he was able to shield the defender with his own body and make that catch. He brings that, like, again, big body element and continues having that swag that the team wants, right? So his scouting report out of college was, he has a good job at bringing passes down, and people have trouble bringing him down. And then he uses his body well as a shield at the catch point. So the pinnacle of that was this weekend, and you saw that he shielded the DB, went up, caught that ball. It was a beautiful ball by Jimmy, and then he's super physical. He was rated PFF's like #1 run blocker for a wide receiver a couple of weeks ago. It was just that 1 week, but he showed what he can do. And then, I think that you always bring it back to that fight that he had, right? He's laughing while he took a punch in the grill. Like he has that swag, he has that punch, and he's doing what Shanahan wants. Shanahan wants to run the football, and he's able to keep continually doing that by dominating, by using his size.
Yeah, I mean, bringing in Felipe's comment here, do you think Shanahan will add in the back shoulder throw to JJ more frequently? Yes, I think that he will incorporate that. I have not seen a wide receiver on San Francisco's offense execute that back shoulder throw with the precision that JJ did on that throw and catch. I've definitely seen that same throw to Brandon Ayuk and was just not as impressed with the body positioning. Not to say that he can't do it, but JJ just showed something, a bit more of that basketball IQ of positioning the body, of being able to stop his forward momentum and really turn that around. The other thing I'm seeing from him is the ability to high point the football. It seems a better than 50-50 ratio for him in those 50-50 balls that you throw up. And if it is about that confidence. Jimmy spoke about that in the presser after he affectionately referred to JJ. He talked about in practice, anytime there is something missed between the two of them, JJ will come up to him and say, hey, that was on me. Here's what I missed about it. Here's what I'm going to do the next time. And Jimmy commented that is how he feels receivers and quarterbacks best build up that trust. And that's what needs to be there to throw that back shoulder throw, or any throw where you're putting it to a spot that the receiver currently isn't, right? You're trusting your guy is going to get there before the defender does. And to be able to stop, turn around, hit that 50-50 ball and catch with his hands. I saw a comment on here that some people may object to, but I agree with Jan in that JJ reminds me of Crabtree with his ability to catch the ball very well with his hands. He may not have the same level of hands as Michael Crabtree did later in his career. I mean, Michael Crabtree became a very consistent possession receiver, but it reminds me of that, the way in which he does catch the ball. And you talked about it, the blocking, the ferocity there, the ability to just laugh it off as another guy's in his face trying to fight him. That's the type of mentality that you want out there run blocking.
Yeah, I mean, they need that. They need that because the whole run offense, the zone read is trying to get to the outside, and you need wide receivers to block, and you do that. I think that Crabtree might be a little hesitant, or Plaxico Burress, but those are the pinnacle of that position.
Yes.
Where Jennings is still coming into his own. But yeah, you like the way he's using his body. You like the way they're doing that. And I think I want to go, look, I'm going to take a little side note on this. The number one QB wide receiver tandems in the league have that mind meld, right? If you look at Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams, if they're one-on-one, that back shoulder throw is almost imminent all the time because they believe,
uncoverable.
Yeah, they believe that they can do that at all times. And I think Ayuk has that catch radius to do that. And I don't know if this play was drawn up, if it was a read by Jimmy, if it was the second or third read, and we'll never know that. But they need to do that more often and rely on the receiver to win one-on-one battles.
Yes, indeed. They need a wide receiver that can do just that, win the one-on-one battles. I mean, what we're seeing now with Brandon Ayuk,
they have them.
There are times where he is covered, but you can throw it to him because he's going to be able to get to it. But as far as a big-bodied wide receiver to be able to throw it in there while they're covered, I think it's Jennings, hands down.
Well, Ayuk has had those opportunities, and Deebo as well early in their season. Ayuk has that catch radius that's ridiculous. And then if
ridiculous catch radius, and Deebo over the middle is lights out in those contested catches as well. You don't see it on the edge as much with either one of them.
That's what I'm saying, though. You need a mind meld. Like, if it's one-on-one, like, I know Shanahan's scheming all this crap open because you look at Nick Mullins and Beathard had third down conversion rates in 18 and 19 that were high because Shanahan's scheming, but you also need that mind meld. You need the trust in your wide receiver. Like, hey, he's one-on-one. He's going to win this. Like, I'm going to throw it up and trust him that he comes down with it. You know why that Mike Evans for Tampa Bay was so good for so long is because Winston would do that. He would just throw it up. Yeah, he would lead to a lot of interceptions because he wasn't accurate, but he would trust Evans. And now Tom Brady is starting to get that mind meld. You saw it this weekend with that touchdown pass. It goes well into every single team. If you have that one-on-one, chances are the corner isn't as good as you in most matchups, and the corner has to turn around and do all these kind of things. You can win those matchups, and Jimmy doesn't have the balls to throw that stuff most of his career, and maybe they're starting to get that way where they're trusting the wide receivers, right? Because injuries do take away from chemistry. Jimmy's been out with injuries. The wide receivers have been out with injuries. Jennings and getting his chance. So there's a lot of variables going around. Maybe they're starting to get into that mind meld that we really need.
Yeah, you definitely need it to take place with more than just Deebo and Kittle. You need the offense to have a bit more of an option to it. And I think Jennings is a great complement with Ayuk emerging as well. All right, jumping into a super chat that Aaron from 49ers First Takes has brought in for us. Hey, fellas, hope all is well. If JJ can work on separation, he could be a competent number 3 going forward. That is going to be the issue for JJ, right? He is in no way a burner. If there is one thing that Juwan Jennings lacks, it is speed/athleticism. But if he has competent hands, if he has the ability to block out, as in basketball, and if he has the trust of Jimmy Garoppolo, those things to me can outweigh the need for the burner, the speed in order to create separation in that way.
Yeah, as the cliche saying says, there's more than one way to skin a cat. And so, he can use his body, like you said. He could use his hands. He could use his side. He's over 215 pounds. Most corners are not that big. And so when you use that weight and you win routes and he becomes a good route runner, I mean, you can be dominant. I mean, the best wide receiver of all time, Jerry Rice, wasn't fast on tape, but he was a tactician and he did that way. And by no means am I saying that JJ is Jerry Rice. All I'm saying is that there's more ways to win than just separation. And if he's a good route runner and the timing and the connection with Jimmy G is phenomenal, he can win those short routes. And why I thought Sherfield would be the number 3 wide receivers, because I thought Lance was going to be the quarterback at this time, so the deep ball. But because Jimmy thrives at getting the ball out early, maybe you need that big body wide receiver that can put his weight on linebackers, is not afraid to go in the middle, and is dominating that side of the football. And so it's just more cogs in the machine, you know.
Agreed. And there is only one Jerry Rice. We know that. There's no comparison there.
Yeah.
There's no comparison.
Yeah, the eternal, my man. So let's switch it to another wide receiver. So Deebo just coming back in this game, you know, obviously has the touchdown running, I think only 1 catch receiving. Does the amount that they're using Deebo as a runner and not a wide receiver bother you long term, you know, just for his injury status and his potential extension, right? I mean, a lot of people are talking over 20 mil. Does that bother you?
A little bit. It bothers me in a couple of different ways. So I think it will bother him a little bit if in any way the 49ers attempt to negotiate his next contract and reflect the idea that he's spending some time at running back, right? Because as opposite as it may seem, if an NFL front office attempted to do that in negotiation, they wouldn't be saying, well, we're going to pay you more than a wide receiver because you offer running back as well. No, they would try to negotiate down because wide receivers get paid a hell of a lot more per year than running back. So I think that's why
it's like the defensive end linebacker situation, right?
Exactly. If they tagged him, it would come down to a court case over whether they paid him as a running back or a wide receiver. So I do think that's why he came out after the first game where he was used as a running back and basically declared that, no, I'm not going to get more carries than I do receptions going forward. Although that has proven to be false, that it has borne out that really it is more carries recently. I think that's probably for other reasons. But the bigger concern for me is definitely the concern around usage because of too many big bodies. I don't like him running into the heart of the defensive line. I much prefer him catching it second level, bouncing off a linebacker, and then just absolutely trucking a defensive back. You take a lot of harder hits as you're going through the defensive line and some of those big body defenders. And I also think for his soft tissue issues, which is just something that's been prevalent for Deebo, less so this year, I think because he's focused on yoga, all that stretching. Got to get that stretching in there. Got to stay limber.
Oh, pull the lat.
Yeah. You don't want Deebo pulling a lat. You don't want him pulling a quad. You don't want him tearing a groin, right? So I think the sudden stops and starts out of the backfield, because he has those tree trunks for legs and the quick feet and the sudden burst he has, it's much more likely that he does a lot more stopping and starting in the backfield. And that was where he got injured, obviously tweaked the groin. So to me, I would rather get him back out there catching more passes in the long run.
Yeah, I wonder if you could throw it up there. The Truth 05's last comment. Overall, before I get to that comment, I'm going to talk about something else. I think the overall pass attempts for Jimmy G is way less than a lot of people realize. You look at Tom Brady's leading the league in pass attempts, and Jimmy G has 200 less pass attempts than Brady on the season. And so is there enough usage to go around, right? So when Kittle was out and Ayuk was in the doghouse, Deebo was relied on 15 targets a game plus the running back shows. And now Kittle showing back-to-back weeks of over 15 targets. Ayuk is doing a lot better. So is there room for Deebo? Is there room for all these to thrive? And you and me, Rob, want everybody to have 8 receptions. You know, let's even out everything like that. Let's all play nice and pass around the cookies. But that's really not how it works out, right? Because offenses want to get first downs. They want to take advantage. And as the Truth said, he thinks that this is because Mitchell was out. But if you look at the Viking game, that's not the case, right? So Elijah Mitchell had 27 carries for 133, and Deebo still had 6 carries, 4 of which were inside the tackle for 66 yards. So it's still something that comes to qualms with me, is that they want to use Deebo because of his ability to get to the outside. Why are we
That's
missing that?
right.
Is because is Mozart. Mozart was able to get to the outside. He had the vision to go that way, and Mitchell has yet to prove that he can do that. He doesn't have the 60-yarder. He doesn't have all this kind of stuff. If you look back, I think the last touchdown over 40 yards might have been Detroit, if I just remember off the top of my head. So yeah, he's a bruiser. He's carrying the ball over 20 times. He's one of those lifeblood type players, maybe like a Melvin Gordon who gets 30 carries and 100 yards, but he's averaging 3 to 4 yards a carry. It's just something that I don't think is sustainable long term for a healthy team, not an effective team, because Deebo in the backfield's effective, but a healthy team.
Yeah, I agree. I think you're looking for something where you're getting him 3 to 4 carries a game, and you're doing it just for that reason. I believe that you have hit the nail squarely on the head, that when we lost Raheem Mostert, there was a certain portion of the playbook that literally had to be thrown out because you had plays that we had no one to execute that run play on, no one that could get to the edge with that speed that Raheem Mostert had. And Shanahan's such a dynamic play designer that he put that play in there specifically for a skill set like Raheem Mostert. And Deebo does offer that. It is deceptive just how fast that man is. When I watched that end around on Sunday where he followed Tom Compton down to the end zone, I had no clue he was going to be able to turn that edge. I mean, history tells me he was going to, but I thought to myself, no, defender has the angle. He doesn't have the angle. Deebo's got the corner. Deebo's gone. He's gone. It is ridiculous how quick his short area quickness is. He may not have the Raheem Mostert top end speed, but he gets 0 to 60 fast enough to turn that edge. Elijah Mitchell may have closer to that 4.3 speed, doesn't have Raheem Mostert speed, but I don't think it's the same short area quickness, and therefore I just don't think that he fills the need there. The two have to play together for it to be complementary. I would much rather that Deebo get fewer carries, be in that 3 to 4 carry per game range, and focus on being a wide receiver. Because if we continue to use him in this way with one catch per game, it ignores how great of a wide receiver he is. I realize that part of that is due to the pairing of Jimmy and Deebo, and I do look forward to the pairing of Trey Lance and Deebo. I think that will open up a whole new world for Deebo Samuel, no question about it.
A little Lance, Mitchell, Deebo triple option.
Forget about it.
Just giving me wood thinking about it.
Forget about it. So, I do think that he is much more of a deep target and a complete wide receiver than he gets credit for. Yeah. I think right now the 49ers do have to focus on maintaining Deebo a little bit and making sure that he is good going forward.
Before we go to the super chat, let me throw a little minor question to you. We talked about this with Ayuk earlier on in the season, getting him in the game as a wide receiver. The same goes for Deebo, I think, at this point, right? He had one catch for 22 yards, but why not give him screens? It's the same ability, right? You're giving him that yard after catch ability. You're giving him that outside ability. Maybe do more screens out of the backfield. You can line him up as a running back thinking that it's going to be a pitch, and then the defensive guys come in, you throw him a screen, you utilize his ability after the catch just as well, and he's not taking hits from 300-pound guys. He's taking hits from defensive backs, which he loves to tear up. So
yes, he does.
Is that something that you would like to see? Because I know I would.
Absolutely. Anything that gets the ball into Deebo Samuel's hands in space, I am on board with 100%.
Let's hit these super chats, my man.
Let's hit him. Joshua coming in here. Thank you, Joshua. Anquan Bolden wasn't fast, but he was that third down possession type receiver. Anquan Bolden was a beast. No question about it. He is, if we're going to compare Juwan Jennings to him, which I think is the angle that Joshua is going with this, with the earlier conversation around JJ, all of these comparisons that we're making, Michael Crabtree, we're talking about Plexico Burst, we're talking about Anquan Bolden. Obviously, those are established wide receivers that had immense success within the NFL. When I mention JJ's name in any way relevant to them, I am not implying that he will be that great or that he is in any way that great right now. There's just a little reminiscence there for me. And I do think that the Anquan Bolden comparison is reasonable. It is close in what I'm starting to see from JJ. I don't expect him to get to Anquan's level. I don't expect him to have the physicality of Anquan Boldin because, again, he was just an elite pass catcher, and he did so from his rookie season forward. But I do like the comp.
I think it's more along the lines. Let me go the different direction. I think he's more like Kittle. Right.
Mm.
He was a security blanket in that year. He caught everything that came to him. He was every third down target. And when Kittle's healthy, you see that 15 targets this last game, almost every single third down. Like he's a reliable player. And that's what Boldin was. If you're looking from a body standpoint and a bruiser and a good blocker, yeah, the comp for Boldin is definitely there.
Love it. Waruna just coming in to show some love. Great to see both of you collaborating. Perfect combo. A tip of the hat and a cheers for Waruna.
My man. You know, I got to say that he's been Darth Lord of the Sith on Twitter lately. He's been going straight 180. He was full Jimmy G earlier in the year, and Trey Lance needs to sit, and now he's just slicing back and forth and doing those force chokes on anybody who says otherwise. So, Waruna, I appreciate the saltiness and keep up the good work.
Yes, Waruna certainly has no shortage of saltiness, that's for sure. Well, continuing along the wide receiver trend, Randon, take us into this comparison here.
Yeah, so Cordell Patterson was rumored to go to the Niners in the offseason. He definitely signed with Atlanta. And now he's being used a lot by Deebo or vice versa. You could say whoever played that role first, but you know, they're both the use of creativity in both offenses is apparent. And these cogs in the offense might be the difference in the game come with the Falcons on Sunday. How do you view Cordell Patterson as a player? Is he similar to Deebo? Are they using him similarly? And then how do you vision this matchup going versus these superstars?
Yeah, I think that you're spot on in saying that this is something to watch on Sunday, that this could be a determining factor in which team comes out on top. I know a lot of 49er faithful are really hoping for a blowout against Atlanta, that finally this will be a game we won't have to sweat down to the wire. As I start digging into Atlanta and what they're attempting to do in winning out this season and how important this game against San Francisco is, and how much they have played San Francisco up to our level in the past. I'm looking at 2019 right now to think of that game that ended up being a trap with Julio Jones catching the winning touchdown to ruin my day. That's what I think the Falcons are going to bring to the table. So this one is looking to be close in my book, and I think it could come down to the difference between these two. Coming in, my immediate reaction was, well, he's a poor man's Deebo. He's a poor man's Deebo. It's not quite the same. Not up to the level.
He's trying to get change on the sidewalk, Deebo.
That's right. But I got to be honest that as I dug into the research for this topic, it's not as big of a gap as I expected. I mean, it's percentage of usage. He is as big of a factor for Atlanta as Deebo is for the 49ers.
Oh, man. You know I love the stats. Let me break it down for you there, Rob.
Break it down, my man.
So, you know, he's been the sole frame for the Falcons, right? 10 total touchdowns, over 1,050 yards. That's 25% of the team's total offense. 25%. Like, he is massive for that team, and I don't see that changing in this game.
No, I wouldn't either. There is a marked difference in their efficiency, right? He has 547 rushing yards total at 4.5 a clip. Deebo may only have 240, but it's averaging 7.3 yards per carry. You stated it, the touchdowns are near even, right? 10 for Cordell and 11 for Deebo. That surprised me that he had that percentage of the touchdowns for the Falcons. But it's as a receiver where Deebo has dropped off in recent games, but you know he's capable enough to have continued producing there if the 49ers had so chosen, if they hadn't had the injuries at running back. That's where it stands out for me. Deebo, 1,028 yards, 18 yards per reception, which is just phenomenal. I mean, you're only looking at just over 10 yards per reception for Cordell, 46 catches for 519 yards. So I think that they are similar in their ability to operate out of the backfield. They are similar in how each team is reliant upon that individual, but Deebo's the bigger talent, wouldn't you say?
Oh, by far. And I think the only difference is the usage, right? So they both have both abilities to be wide receivers. Cordarrelle was a wide receiver for a long time, and then they started using him as running back. Same thing with Deebo. But this year, the Falcons are primarily using him as a running back, and then they're sprinkling in the wide receiver stuff close to the red zone. And so you saw that the Falcons have used him similarly all year long, where Deebo was a wide receiver, and now he's primarily a running back. The usage has completely changed. The theory about him as a player has changed. And I think that's a mistake by the Niners. I think the Falcons have stayed true to the ability, but you're looking at now the Niners are changing the way they view Deebo. Is that because of Kittle? Is that because Ayuk is playing better or out of the doghouse? Who knows? Is that because they don't trust Jimmy? Like I said, he's 200 pass attempts behind Tom Brady, who leads the league. That's a lot of pass attempts over the certain amount of games. And so is it the trust in Jimmy? Is it all this kind of stuff? Or is there just not enough mouths to feed? Who knows? But I would like to see them scheme up more stuff for Deebo in the passing game and use the running game as a jolt of lightning, if you will, rather than the consistency.
I think you're right about that in using the running game as that jolt of lightning. And I have to point to the trust issue that is clearly established between Coach Shanahan and Jimmy G. That it just seems to me Shanahan has limited his play calling to try and compensate for where he feels Jimmy's shortcomings are. And I don't know that it's a healthy thing. I really side with Steve Young in the way he described it in his more recent interview with Matt Mayoko, indicating that if they could fix that trust, if they could reestablish it in some way, it would greatly benefit the 49ers offense going forward. And it just strikes me that Shanahan does smell blood in the water. He does want to chase it, but he doesn't trust Jimmy's ability to do it wholeheartedly. And therefore, you get these half-hearted efforts at capitalizing on defense's weaknesses. You shift away at times from the run game, which is the core identity of this team, but you're not really trusting Jimmy to put the dagger in the opponent. And so it becomes a half-hearted effort. And I think that's where the 49ers fall short a bit.
It's a double negative that doesn't turn into a positive. So you're looking
that's rare. That's a rare double negative.
Yeah, that's scientifically impossible. So it's what I think is like you look at Jimmy in his ability to pass it further downfield outside the numbers and all this kind of the stereotypes,
the stigmas.
The stigmas, not stereotypes, because stigmas are real. But you're looking at that kind of game doesn't lend itself to him pushing the ball downfield. And then you're going, oh, does that limit Shanahan's calling? Well, maybe Shanahan is limiting Jimmy in the fact that he doesn't trust him, so he's not calling the full game in that matter. So maybe they're both in each other's heads.
Yes.
And they're not allowing the offense to be a full offense. Now, you can say all this all you want. Do you believe that Jimmy can run that full offense? Do you think Jimmy can be Aaron Rodgers? Hell to the F and no. I don't think he can be that type of quarterback. But can he throw the ball downfield? Well, 6 for 6 in overtime with 2 passes over 25 yards, one of them outside the numbers. I mean, he's shown spurts of it. Like, he hasn't been like elite his whole career. And obviously, if you look at the less than 1.5 to 1 touchdown to turnover ratio would show that for Jimmy G. But we'll never know if it's part because Kyle doesn't believe he can do those things. And so he doesn't dial up plays for him to at least try. Right. And before you answer me, I want to go to an interview that Aaron Rodgers had on the McAfee show and saying that him and the offensive coordinator at least dial 1 deep play per quarter, regardless of outcome, just to keep the defense honest.
It makes sense.
When's the last time you've seen Jimmy throw the ball over 25 yards a game 4 times in a game? I mean, it's just not there. And I think you're like, oh, well, Aaron Rodgers can throw the ball deep. Yeah, he's the best pure ball thrower I've seen ever in the history of the game. But the premise is, Aaron said it's not for dialing it up for a completion. It's dialing it up to keep the defense honest. He's trying to make a completion. He's trying to hit that pass in stride. He believes his receiver can make that one-on-one move or one-on-2 move, but it's just keeping the defense honest. So I know I've been blurting for a long time. Soak it in, maybe take a drink a little bit, but what do you think about that?
I think that fans would immediately point to the throw to Travis Benjamin, right? The underthrow to Travis Benjamin, who clearly had multiple steps and probably should have had a touchdown early in that Cincinnati game. They would point to that and say, see, Jimmy doesn't throw the ball deep well. And what I would say to answer that is okay, that's a partially true statement. The complete statement in my mind is Jimmy does not throw the deep ball well consistently. And to your point of the purpose of what Aaron Rodgers is talking about is it's not necessarily about the completions. It is about keeping the defense honest. And you have to recognize, as the San Francisco 49ers, because of the fact that they love to throw the ball short and over the middle, defenses play them in that regard. And it sets up for the occasional deep shot really gouging a defense, really being a home run ball. You can't tell me that Kyle Shanahan, with his play design genius, could not come up with one shot per quarter on average that capitalized on getting someone out there. I know that Travis Benjamin hasn't been active for very many games this year, and without him, the 49ers don't really have a true speed guy in their wide receiving core, but Trent Sherfield could fill that role. I mean, he is a decent deep ball threat, and I think that George Kittle can fill that role as well, because it's all about the matchup, and he's typically on a slower guy in coverage. So yes, I think that it does go back to the core issue of trust between Jimmy G and Shanahan and the lack thereof.
Yeah, I think it's something to be said, and it has to be a symbiotic relationship. You're right.
Yes.
Why did McVay go out and get Stafford? Because he believed he could run his offense better. And when you have trust and belief in a player, and you're able to do those things, it all goes into a symbiosis that is a good offense. And I think Ian Sharp said it best: is the consistency. Right? You brought up the Benjamin thing, but he did throw that ball to Kittle when he got held that one arm that hit him right in the chest, deep, over 30 yards. That could have been over 200 yards for Kittle. Could have been another touchdown. Like,
that was a phenomenal throw. Phenomenal.
Yeah. So he shows those balls, but no, we'll never know as fans. Is it Shanahan not calling those things up? Is it Jimmy not being able to read the defense as a more of a first play? Is it his arm strength, or is it a hybrid of everything? And that's the whole point, is that with the inconsistency of the whole offense, that's why they went out and asked and picked up the phone and traded 3 first-round picks, and there's quarterback controversy, is because there's inconsistency somewhere, and that needs to be fixed.
Well, this transitions just perfectly into our next topic, because we're already talking about it. We are already talking about Jimmy G and taking the good with the bad. When you're balancing the positive skills of Jimmy Garoppolo, his quick release, his ability to hit the throws over the middle in tight windows that are just ridiculous, his ability, while inconsistent, to push it outside the numbers or throw it deep, as we just established, he's capable of it, even if you might argue that he's not doing it consistently. What I wonder about this is, when you factor in all the positive traits for Jimmy, all of the limitations that he brings, potentially his tendency to throw the errant toss to a linebacker that it appears he doesn't even see, can the 49ers expect a high level of efficiency from Jimmy Garoppolo as the level of competition continues to go up? I ask this because it seems that the 49ers need that from Jimmy, that they're a team that can't really overcome too many mistakes. So if we accept that as the premise, that the 49ers need a pretty clean game, as you look ahead in the schedule at some of these more dominant defenses, do you believe Jimmy G is going to be able to provide those efficient games that the 49ers need from him in order to pull out victories?
Again, I think this is a full team aspect, right? So I'm not talking about the rushing game. Let's just take the passing game in general. Is Kyle going to take advantage of the bad parts of the defense? Is Jimmy going to be able to be confident to make those throws? Are they going to allow receivers to make one-on-one plays? Or are they going to try to scheme up everything and be too fancy? Is he going to take shots downfield? Like, all these questions to me, like, coincide with each other, and the good and the bad, right? So, you look at the whole crowd. I'm sure a lot of people who are listening are talking, like I am on Twitter Spaces, and it's like, people are going for fisticuffs over whether Jimmy's good or bad. there's people that want to kneel at the altar of Jimmy, and they're called Jimmy sexuals. And then you have people who think that he's a garbage and not even worth being a backup. And in reality, we all know that it's in between, right? No
Yes.
garbage quarterback is going to make the Super Bowl, but he did it with the number 2 rushing attack. He did it with the number 2 defense. And that's what he needs. He needs the perfect storm. That's why the team isn't having him throw a lot, right? 200, like again, I'm going to say it again, 200 pass attempts less than Tom Brady this season already. So he's not doing that all over the time, right? Shanahan is going to rely on his creativity in the run game. He's going to rely on him being able to scheme the first read open, and it's up to Jimmy to hit that receiver. So that's the play right there. And so I think that with the good and the bad, like he's accurate in the middle of the field most of the time.
He is.
But the bad is he doesn't stretch the ball downfield, whether he's willing to or it's not designed. We won't ever know, but he doesn't do it. It doesn't happen. And, and then he usually waits until the end where he can pick apart soft defenses, right? So why does he have fourth quarter comebacks? Because the defense plays off, right? They're trying to hold you to no big plays over the top with less than 2 minutes. And he's able to use his quick release and hit wide receivers underneath because that's the way the defense is designed. So I think it's a combination of everything. And I think that you look at what Jimmy has done for this organization and what Jimmy is as a quarterback, you can win that way. But is he elite? No, by any means, he's not elite. And so that's why the Niners changed, not because he's not a satisfactory starter quarterback, is because if you look at all the quarterbacks who have won Super Bowls, their names are Manning, Brady, Aaron Rodgers, all the elites, and there's very few Super Bowls with mediocre quarterbacks. And so they're trying to upgrade because that's what you need to have a decade-long franchise in this league.
Yeah, I would agree. I got to take a moment to go on a little bit of a rant. You ready for a little bit of a rant?
Yeah, let me take one sip really quick, and I'm all ears, man.
The entire Jimmy sexuals, Jimmy Stan thing just bothers the shit out of me. I got to be honest about it.
Yeah.
That whole polarized society that we have devolved into in this country, it gets under my skin. I have to say it. I have to say that you pointed out the truth is in the middle, and to then take someone, I get upset about it because I find myself to be someone who spits facts. I try to, at least.
Yeah.
I try to look at the statistics. I try to watch the tape, and I try to give accurate takes on Jimmy Garoppolo and any player that I cover. And so with Jimmy, that means you're going to cover some things that he does well. And just because you highlight that does not mean that you are defending him above all costs and that you don't love Trey Lance as the future. That is wild to me. And I want to encourage 49ers fans to back away from the keyboard when you have that inclination to try and label someone as a Jimmy stan or a Jimmy sexual. No, the truth is in the middle. Get into the details of the argument. Get into the nuance of the conversation. Ask that person why they believe Jimmy is good. What are the traits that he has? Because no, he's not an elite quarterback, but he does have some elite traits. You can't tell me his ability to fit the pass into some of those tight windows in the middle of the field is not as elite as anyone in the league, right? I mean, it is amazing what he's able to do there. Some of them are jaw-dropping. At the same time, he will commit some really head-scratching plays, some that leave you saying, I am incredibly frustrated with him. But I just have to point out that we can't be these two polar opposites and then just bicker back and forth. It bugs the hell out of me. I had to go on my little rant there. I apologize to anyone that I offended, but sorry, not sorry.
Yeah, hey, take a deep breath, man, because I agree with you. So I just think you look at it, and the team called on every single quarterback in the market, right? So, and then they traded up 3 first-round picks. The fact is, I think Shanahan needs the deep passing game to utilize his offense, right? So when you're running against 8-man in the box consistently, it doesn't allow him to be as creative. He has to be even more creative to get the same amount of yards. And Trent Williams said it in an interview that, hey, we're facing loaded boxes all the time.
Yes.
So he pretty much was dogging Jimmy without dogging Jimmy and directly. And it's just facts that Jimmy doesn't scare anybody deep. He does not. And so they're loading the boxes.
But back to your earlier point, it's not just Jimmy doesn't scare people deep. It's the combination of Jimmy and the lack of trust in Jimmy by Kyle Shanahan and his reticence to dial up deep shots that cause defenses not to be scared. So it's not just a Jimmy fact.
Yeah, but yeah, you're 100% correct. But I look at it this way, right? How many pass interference has been called off of BS stuff where the receivers beat the corner, the ball is underthrown, the corner never turns around, and the receiver has to stop to try to make the catch and runs into the DB.
Right.
Pass interference for the DB. Right? So every single part of the offense was incorrect. The ball was underthrown, the route was run incorrectly, they came back, and it's the DB's fault according to the referee. So why not throw it deep? Right?
100%.
Either you make a catch, you get a pass interference, you get a touchdown. The worst thing that happens is an incomplete pass. And I think that Aaron Rodgers said it best. You need to throw the ball deep, at least just to keep the defense honest. And we don't do that enough.
We don't. I do think that what we did against the Bengals was manage Jimmy's shortcomings a little bit better. What I saw with him was when the pocket got crowded, instead of being out there with the ball in his hand, trying to make the pass until the very last second and being vulnerable to the strip sack, I saw a very much more conservative approach. And as soon as the pocket got muddled, he brought that ball in so that it wouldn't get stripped from him and really took the sacks. I mean, some of those sacks felt like they were on Jimmy, but it felt like it was almost a cognitive choice by him as opposed to forcing a ball, as opposed to trying to extend the play, just accepting that a sack is better than a turnover. And I think if the Niners can make that transition and play cleaner games, I do think that sets up nicely. I think that they have a strong enough run game. They have a strong enough defense in spurts, in particular, if they're able to rely on the run game to stay on the field, and not asking Jimmy to be perfect, but asking him to play within the scheme of the offense a bit more and not make the really costly turnovers that the 49ers can't seem to overcome.
Yeah, I mean, to round out this topic, I think you're looking at the overtime thing was indicative of what the Niners should be, right? So short pass over the middle to Kittle, then deep pass right, deep pass over the middle. They had 2 back-to-back 20-yard chunks, which hasn't happened in a long time for the Niners, and they're willing to throw the ball deep and rely on their playmakers. Kittle is the best tight end in football.
Yes.
Maybe not the best receiving tight end in his prime. You could argue Kelsey that or Waller.
Sure, I think you could.
Just pure receiver, but he's the best tight end in football, and there's a reason he's gotten 15 targets. You have Ayuk, who has the catch radius of somebody who is much taller than him. You have Jennings, who has his body. You have Deebo, who's willing to go in the area. You have these receiving threats that are willing to make chunks. Like, the balls need to be thrown. Like, they just do.
And the plays need to be called.
Exactly. It's a symbiotic relationship. I love that word symbiotic. It's fun to say, but it's a relationship that needs to happen. And there's nothing wrong with an incomplete pass for 20 yards that is an attempt to make a play. There's nothing wrong with that. And if the PIs are calling left and right, there's more PIs than deep. I think there's been more PIs on the Niners than deep passes over 20 yards that we've completed, which is indicative of what we need to do as an offense.
Yes. We have watched too many pass interference penalties be called on opposing defenses, on us, to not push opposing defenses and try and get a few ourselves. All right, I'm long overdue to bring in this super chat from Liam. Liam, my apologies for letting that sit there far too long. Liam says, we need to trade Kittle this offseason for picks. I guess the timing of it is pretty good because you just brought in the Kittle comment, and now we get to argue as to whether we should just dump the best tight end in the league. So I think my response there probably gives a little insight as to how I feel about it. This to me is a bit of madness. I get the argument, and Liam hasn't included what he believes, but this is what other people have told me. So Liam, I hope I'm not putting words in your mouth, but some people are concerned with George Kittle's injury history, that on a regular basis, he's going to miss a couple of games. And to that, I say that's because of his physical playing style. I think the same is true of Deebo Samuel. I thought the same was true of Raheem Mostert and the speed at which he ran and the upright running style. But what they bring when they're healthy is so special. And in Kittle's case, the games missed are typically not season-ending type of injuries. They are battered, bruised type of injuries, muscle pulls, tweaked knees, because he is used so heavily, because he is such a physical guy. So I wouldn't trade one for the other. I don't want Kittle to play a different brand of football. I want Kittle to play Kittle smash mouth football and dominate the way that he does. And in doing so, I'm okay with the fact that he'll probably miss an average of 3 games per year. I think his contract is suitable for his production on this team because of what he brings in the run game in addition to the pass game. Would you even think about trading George Kittle? Would you ponder that idea if the 49ers were offered a first-round pick for him?
So it's based on value, right? If it's an overpay, it's a business. You trade him away if it's an overpay, right?
Sure.
But in general, you're looking at, would you say Kittle? You said first round pick, right? You said at minimum first round pick.
I did.
Or you're thinking, yeah. So
that's what I think is a reasonable price for one of, if not the best tight ends in the league. Pretty much agreed across the NFL.
All right, you like my stats, so I'm gonna bring them up. So
bring them up.
So from 2006 to 2016, this is results that I've dug up myself. There's been 8 tight ends drafted in the first round. So if we're going to replace Kittle right away with a first round pick, 8 tight ends in the first round since in that decade, 6 of them made the Pro Bowl. So it's a high percentage. If there's an elite tight end, then take it. But how many elite tight ends are there? Are there going to be one next year? Are we going to be able to do that 1-for-1 trade? Because if you look at the one-for-1 with Buckner and Kinlaw, it hasn't worked out so well. So
not so good,
right? You look at overall position-wise, 43% make one Pro Bowl of first-round picks. Only 43%, which is not good. So we know Kittle is an elite Pro Bowl player. We know that he can do this thing. His contract is very reasonable because he's on pace, though, for a high percentage of yards. He's probably going to be in the top area. And then you're looking at, he's had more 150-yard games than any other tight end in history. It's just, he's a phenomenal player, and you take those injury risks. And it's not like he doesn't know that. He said that at Tight End U that he's hired a personal trainer to focus on the areas that he's been injured in the past. I don't know how you develop foot muscles to cater your bones in your foot, but he's looking at people that can do that. And so he's still young. I don't think you trade him unless it's a haul, right? If it's a haul, like if it's an established player plus multiple first-round picks where you're like, man, this team is dumb for doing that, then sure. But
right.
one first-round pick just because he's injury-prone, quote-unquote, get that garbage out of here, because I think that an elite player well succeeds what a chance that you could have at a first-round pick being a successful, right? 42% just to make one Pro Bowl, and Kittle's an all-pro.
And I do think you have to consider the DeForest Buckner situation. And Liam, we're not attempting to put words in your mouth, even though we're putting words in your mouth as to what reasons for not doing it. We're making him reconsider. Yeah. We're making him reconsider, which is fantastic. This is great news, Liam. This is what we're here for, to give you insight and help you evolve that opinion. I do think that you have to consider the DeForest Buckner trade, because you start to produce a trend that you have elite players that are leaders within the organization that bring everything you want. You describe as an organization. San Francisco 49ers say to their fan base, this is what we want in our ideal player. We want someone who's a Pro Bowler. We want someone who's one of the best at their position. We want someone that's committed to the organization. We want someone that works in the community with people in Santa Clara, San Francisco. And you had that in DeForest Buckner, and you sent him packing. He was everything you wanted at a premium position that you say is the most important on your team. Now, if you do it again to another leader, another face of the franchise, now who feels safe? Now you've created a work environment where even your brightest stars are wondering, am I just here temporarily? So the psychological factor, to me, has to come into play. But I think we've convinced everybody that it's the right decision. You just don't trade George Kittle. Well, I got to bring this in. This one's coming in from Everett Kramer. Ev, my man, I
need a refill after that money,
man. Too
man.
kind. Well, you do need a refill because he's playing the drinking game. Ev says, I concur with Raruna. This is a superb pairing of journal entertainists. Side note, I'm playing the drinking game called Drink When Randon Drinks. So
saddle up, partner.
On that note, it could be a sloppy ending to this program after that challenge. Challenge accepted. The drinking game continues. I, with my H2O, will be highly hydrated.
Yeah, I'm doing a little hazy IPA from a small brewery called Funky Picnic out here in the good old Fort Worth. I'm in Texas. So
nice.
Everett, put in the chat what your drink of choice is, and maybe we can get a drinking game going on in this live chat there, Schuh.
Hey, I am always down with people in the chat continuing to get their drink on and get happy. That's always a good thing. Ev, the next time I am in town for a 49ers game, you and me are going to get drinks, my friend. That is for sure. No question about it. We got to hang. All right. Let's get on to one of our final topics here. The 49ers are preparing for the playoffs at this point, right? It seems to be pretty much a sure thing that the 49ers, I'm not going to jinx the 49ers. It is a clear path to the playoffs for the San Francisco 49ers. The Niners can realistically make the playoffs going 2-2 to close the season. Matt Mayoko spelled out a very clear path, literally saying who wins, who loses, who loses for the 49ers to get in at 8-9, which would only require one more win the rest of the way. So it's time for the 49ers to do a little bit of mental tennis here and to weigh the difference between considering usage of players and rest for those people that they are going to need in the playoffs versus that week to week, we need to win every single game, do everything you can, every game just to win. And those are opposing views. You can't really chase both at the same time. Randon, if you had to lean toward one of those two strategies, is it more important for the 49ers to focus on winning every single game in front of them, or should they be preparing for the playoffs and hoping to keep people healthy?
Isn't winning preparing for the playoffs? Like, we have to win multiple games in a row.
Yes, it is part of the preparation for the playoffs.
Yeah, so I think you're looking at, like, I don't believe in like trying to win or lose to like face a certain opponent. I don't believe it, because you're gonna have to beat multiple teams to win the trophy, right? So the only time I view resting as important, like if the last week of the season we're playing the Rams, right? The last week of the season, and there's nothing to be gained or lost by win or a loss, then then rest your guys that have injuries, right? Rest the guys that have been or are stars, but you don't want to rest everybody, right? If Jimmy's healthy, play Jimmy, or play Trey Lance if you want to do the whole thing. I mean, you could convince me either way, but I think that it's not. It shouldn't be on the forefront of our minds to be resting or pushing right now. We need to win games, right? Because nothing is for sure. If you look at the NFC, the top 5 teams are separated by one game.
Right.
Teams 6 through 11 are separated by one game. So yeah, there's a high percentage chance that we make the playoffs, but it's not impossible for us to lose out. It's not impossible for all those things to happen. And so we need to focus on one game at a time, handle our business. Like, we should be going into the Falcons game like, let's put our dick on the table and just fucking dominate this game. Pardon my French, but like, that should be our mindset, and start putting up some string of wins together to go hot into the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, definitely colorful language there, Randon. That gives us a mental image to bring into this one. But yeah, I absolutely agree that the more appropriate focus for the 49ers is to stay focused on winning the next game. It cannot. This is not the San Antonio Spurs that we're talking about here. This is not load management, right? We need to absolutely be able to focus on Atlanta this week. Now, going into a game, do I think that if you have 8 run plays that are designed for Deebo Samuel, that potentially you hold off on some of those until the second half? Sure. Yeah. If the game unwinds in such a way that you're able to get into game flow, to build a healthy lead, and to minimize the number of carries that you're giving to Deebo Samuel, great. That's fantastic. But don't hold anything back with regard to pursuing each game, each win as the most important outcome, because it's a mindset. It is about getting rolling, getting up to a level of performance as an offense, as a team, so that when you hit the playoffs, teams know exactly what they're up against. And it's a buzzsaw. It's a team that is rolling on all 8 cylinders and able to create some noise in the playoffs. So would it be a crying shame if either one, through what seems like a bit of overuse, got dinged up? Yes. Unfortunately, that's the reality of football. I don't think that you can be focused on saving either one of those guys for the playoffs. You have to make it there first, and you have to worry about the best possible seeding for the 49ers. I just don't think that we are really a deep enough team to focus on load management. I do think that the only way in which you rest a player is if you're locked into a particular seeding in week 17 or more likely 18 when you go in against the Rams. But let's be honest, a lot of weird things can happen in these last 4 weeks. It is not out of the realm of possibilities. It's not probable, but not out of the realm of possibilities that we could win out and Arizona could lose out, right? I mean, it is possible. So yes, every game matters. The 49ers have to focus on winning first and foremost.
If you look at all the statistics with the rest of the team, or basically Arizona and the Rams in our division, they're way better than we are statistically in almost every facet offensively. But there's a lot of stuff going on with that. You look at D-Hop out for the rest of the season. You know, he's trying to get healthy enough to come back for the playoffs. You look at the Rams have a tough schedule. I mean, if you read off the Rams schedule, they're playing the Seahawks this week at home. Then they play the Vikings in Minnesota, then the Ravens, then the Niners. Like those aren't easy games. It's not like the Niners are playing the Texans. Like you'd much rather have that matchup, right? So
right.
And so with the Arizona missing out their number 1 wide receiver, you have the Rams playing a tough schedule. Is it a small chance? Yeah, it is a small chance, but there could be a chance where the last week of the season, we're playing the Rams for the 5 seed. It could be the last week of the season, we're playing with the Rams for leading the division. We don't know. So yeah, you have to put the pedal to the metal. If the last week of the season, there's nothing to be gained by either a win or a loss, then sure, rest people you need to rest. But let's win some MF and ball games here.
Yes. And I appreciate the MF-in use there, Randon.
Yeah. I'm trying to tone it down. I'm getting heated, man. I want to see some playoff football.
Well, let's get into the playoffs. Let's get into the last heated topic that we have for these people.
Yeah, let's do it. I mean, you're talking about, the rest of the season and the potential playoff opponents, in the first round. They all have positive turnover differential, while the Niners are in the middle of the pack with a -2 turnover differential. Obviously, turnovers are a big part of the game. They can swing it back and forth. We saw with the Bengals with the special team turnovers. Will the Niners have to play mistake-free football to win in the first round and further in the playoffs?
I see 2 options for the 49ers to ride a path deep into the playoffs, and both are challenging. The first one is mistake-free football. I do not believe that the 49ers are really that type of offense, that type of team that can overcome a bunch of mistakes. They are not the 2019 49ers with that defense that was able to overcome 5 turnovers against the Pittsburgh Steelers and still win that one at the end with the throw to Dante Pettis in the end zone. We're just not that team so far this year. I'd love it if they could show me that the rest of the season with balance amongst the wide receivers, but I've not seen it to this point. And the other option seems even less likely, and that's what Steve Young hinted at making a deep playoff push. A Super Bowl run would require having Jimmy Garoppolo playing at a Pro Bowl level. Is he capable of a 4, 6, 7 game stretch where he plays at a high level? It's possible, but not likely. The Jimmy Garoppolo that we know is a bit more inconsistent than that. I think that the more probable course is attempting to play their brand of football, not relying on Jimmy to have a Pro Bowl type stretch to end this season. You hope he's got 1 or 2 of those games in him when you need him, but you can't rely on that. What you can rely on is the 49ers playing their brand of complementary football. win the time of possession battle by continuing to run consistently, allow the defense to rest on the side of the field for the majority of the game, and then be highly effective in short bursts when they come on the field and dominate by sacking the opposing quarterback. To me, it's much more likely the 49ers make a run by playing mistake-free or at least mistake-light football.
Couldn't have said it better myself, but I will try. So you're looking at, like we talked about earlier, third down, right? Bottom in the league in third down or somewhere. And that extends drives. What does that also do? It lets your defense get breaks. It lets your defense take breaths. And Nick Bosa is arguably the best player on the team other than Trent Williams. And so, like, you need times for the defense to be able to re-gear. You need times for the defense to catch their breath. And that means completing third downs. And that has to happen with a good team. You're also looking at the rest of the field. So the rest of the field right now, all the potential opponents, like I said, Green Bay, Dallas, Arizona, Cowboys, they need to do every way that they can to possibly win, because out of all those teams, they have the worst quarterback, right? Out of all those teams, all the teams are better at third down conversions. All those teams are in top 5 in the league, not in the NFC, in the league in scoring. And so they can make mistakes and come back with their offense and win games. The Niners, can they do that? Can they do that consistently against better opponents? You have to bet, if you're a betting man, bet on no, right? So for me, it's like you're looking at Jimmy G. Can he consistently put offense against better teams? Sure, he can on a semi-consistent basis. Do you really rely on that? No, you rely on the defense playing top 10 defense, like Rome indicated in the chat. You have our running game being efficient. You look at Compton, right? Compton was PFF rated top 2 run blocker this last week, last in pass blocking.
Yeah, dead last.
Dead last. So you need to run the football. You need to be effective at it. We can't do 3 yards in a cloud of dust. We needed some more innovation. But then you also don't want Deebo back there. So we're at a conundrum. Like, where is the equilibrium in our team of how many passes need to be thrown? What is the appropriate amount of carries for each running back, and all this kind of stuff? And I don't know. Can we win games? Yes. Do I bet on us to consistently win 4? It's going to be tough for us to do that.
It will be tough. One thing I can count on consistently is that the 49ers are competitive in all of these games. And that is something that should not be understated. You absolutely need that to be the case if you want to turn the tide against some of these more talented teams. You need to be in the ball game first. And the 49ers have shown the ability to be in all of these games, even against some of the more elite talent that they have played. A few plays here or there could have been the difference for them. It wasn't. They lost some of those close games. But if you look at, in particular, the game against Green Bay, the games against Arizona, they had a feel of games that were winnable. And all you need, if you're the 49ers, is 1 or 2 things to go your way. For Jimmy to get on a bit of a roll, for players to be healthy at that point. I do believe that it is possible. I also hold on to this strange hope that in the background, Shanahan is working on packages for Trey Lance. I know that there are people who want him to be starting right now. And I guess I get it from the frustration, but I have to trust in the head coach that he would put in the player that gives us the best chance to win. And therefore, because we're not seeing Trey Lance, it says a whole lot about where Coach Shanahan feels he is right now. But if he can prepare him for a set of 4 to 8 snaps where he can come in for momentum shifting plays, whether it's in the red zone, whether it's in between the 40s on short yardage downs, 2nd and short, 3rd and short, shot plays, to me, this is a secret weapon of sorts that could exist for the 49ers if they can implement it at a time where teams don't have film on it. And it can just add some of the explosion that they otherwise seem to be missing in their offense.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't foresee. I just think it needs to be a harmonious relationship, like we talked about. It needs to be Shanahan and Sunshine is asking me where I got my stats at. Let me pull them up here. It's from Team Rankings, and so in 2021, the Niners are 24th at 37.25% on third down conversions. So whether it's passing the football or it's running the football, third down is a third down, and they're not converting at a high enough rate. When you look at Tampa Bay is almost 50%. So they're just not doing that way. And for me, if you look at all the matchups like we talked about, or like I said already, they're all better than us in every single offensive category. So if we make mistakes, how do we rebound off those? Do we have to play mistake-free football to stay in the game? I'm gonna throw a question that's not on our radar right now to you within this mind meld here. Out of all the possible teams, and we've talked about all of them, Arizona, Rams, yada yada yada, who would be your first round choice if you had a chance to choose one, and why?
I would. My initial gut reaction is travel. I want to travel the least amount possible, and so I would absolutely prefer to play LA or Arizona. LA is a clear cut for me that the 49ers do have that edge. It is tough to win 3 games against a single opponent. So if we beat them in week 18, that sets up for a tough matchup to then hit them again in the playoffs and try to get the trifecta. It would be interesting to me if we ended up playing Arizona. I know people think that Arizona is sort of this untouchable team. I don't see them that way. It's perhaps my bias I'm carrying in from before the season started. But what I'm seeing of Kyler Murray's leadership, of Cliff Kingsbury's coaching, and of that team as a whole, I view them to be ready for a bit of a backslide at this point. I think that what you're seeing right now trending downward for Arizona continues to some extent. Now, they're still a wildly dangerous team. They still could absolutely make a run in the playoffs, but I think that they are more flawed than their record would indicate, much closer to what you saw last night in struggling to not last night, but in playing the Rams, where they struggled significantly. And I just see something in the lack of leadership between their head coach and their quarterback that leaves me wondering if they'll be able to pull it out in the postseason. And it's hard to beat a team 3 times, and we lost to them twice. I'd be interested in the rematch against Arizona in the first round.
I'm going to go off balance here based on what we're seeing in the chat and what you said. I'm going Dallas.
Ooh,
and
I like that one too.
And the reason being is that you look at their number 1 corner, Diggs. He's top in turnover, but he's garbage in coverage. Like, he's given up a lot of yards. Who does that remind you of? Norman. So if you're able to roast him all game and he does not able to pick you off, well, we have a conservative quarterback that's not willing to throw the ball deep. He's not willing to put the ball in danger outside the numbers, which is where the corners play. And so, I'm not saying that it would be an easy matchup, because we all know that Dallas can, with their 3 wide receivers and Elliott and Pollard, can put up 40 points, no problem. But I think their defense allows our offense to move the ball more. And that's what I'm worried about, is with any of these teams, we're going to have to keep up offensively. And that's where we need to go.
Yeah, it will be interesting to watch our defense against all of these playoff offenses. But hey, as long as we get a meaningful playoff game this year, I'm excited. I am very excited.
Oh, yeah. January football, baby.
All you need is a chip in a chair, Randon. That is all you need. You get your ticket to the dance, and there is a chance. No question about it. Well, this has been a fantastic show. As always, appreciate having you on, doing these dual shows that we do. The Genuine Schuh working title production. We'll look through the chat earlier to see what the suggestions were that came in. We'll have that new title coming at you live. We'll look at some merch that features these 2 gorgeous beards on there as well. We'll have some good stuff. That's what you need. Maybe a chip in a chair is what we call the podcast.
Yeah.
We got Ellis loving it. But I just wanted to call this out. It is a busy day of streaming tomorrow. The reminder, 3 programs, 11 a.m. hour on this channel. Going to have a half-hour show with Aaron Freeman of Locked On Falcons podcast. Go follow him on Twitter. He's got a great following, great show. 1:30 show with Brad of the SF Niners podcast YouTube channel, going to be on this channel as well. And then the 4 p.m. video call-in show with the Sneakerhead community, those folks that are members of the channel. All right,
man,
on that,
man, you are busy, man.
I am a very, very busy man trying to keep myself occupied, Randon. You can't let this old noodle run crazy. Just got to talk Niners.
You're going to have to get that beard oil in early. Make sure it's super smooth for the triple header.
Randon, get real, man. There's multiple beard oil applications throughout the day.
Yeah.
That is not a one-time deal.
I feel you, my man. I feel you.
All right. Well, wonderful show. Niner faithful, we appreciate you being here. We will be back next week, Wednesday, 5 p.m. We're holding that time slot, so write it down. Until then, 49er faithful, cheers.